And I had people in their 40s tell me they did not want to make a career change because they felt too old. And to me, that's just crazy talk, y'all. You can do anything. But Karyl, being a comedian, it has been so interesting to all of us, all of her friends. We love hearing her stories because we're learning right along with her, you know, what goes into it. And I think it was so interesting. Your first class was storytelling. Welcome to Aging in Style with Lori Williams, the podcast all about finding the silver lining no matter what life throws your way. I'm Lori Williams, an award-winning senior living expert, author, educator, and caregiver to my husband, Mark. Join me as I share insights, tips, and personal stories to help you navigate the world of senior housing, discover ways to pay for care, advocate for your loved ones, and most importantly, learn how to thrive, not just survive, as you age. Hello, and welcome to Aging in Style. If you are a regular listener of the show, you know that we like to talk about how there should be no limitations placed on what you do based on age. And I truly believe that and try to live that to the best of my ability. But someone who works with me and is a very dear friend of mine is doing something that I think is very unique and very, very huge. And I love it. So I wanted to have her on the show to talk about it. And her name is Karyl Thomas. You may remember her from a hospice episode that we did. And Karyl works with me, and I'm so honored and thankful to have her on my team. But Karyl is also doing something, living a dream of hers at the age of 59. She is going to be, or she is already, learning to be a comedian. So welcome, Karyl, and let's talk about this.
Thank you so much. Yes, I did historically work in hospice, which was truly an honor and privilege, but hospice is 24/7 if you want to do it well. And I did want to do it well, so I almost did work 24/7, or at least it felt like it many days. And that was limiting in terms of exploring arenas that I've always wanted to pursue. And as I was getting closer to the age of 60, I had this nagging little positive, talk in the back of my mind that said, there's no better time than now, even at age 59, to pursue something that had been in the back of my mind, which has been comedy in fashion of either writing or stand-up, etc. So that solicited the shift of transitioning from hospice to working for Lori Williams Senior Services, because it has permitted me to have the freedom to explore. So I said, no time like the present, 59 or not, I'm going to do this, and signed up for classes at the Dallas Comedy Club.
And let me just tell you, if you don't know Karyl, she is hilarious. She is, anything she says is funny, and she's very quick. It's like, what? How did you think of that?
Which has its own risk, because I often get told by my children, you have no appropriate filter. Although I do try to remain professional when professionalism is required. But comedy for me personally has always been an outlet. I think everybody has different outlets when things happen in their life that are stressful, and comedy has always been my go-to in those situations. And I also have always kind of seen things with a twist that kind of hit me differently probably than the average bird. Anyhow, I didn't know what would come of it, other than my goal was to have fun, to grow, to learn. And all of that has happened, and it's been super rewarding. And I'm so glad that I took a leap. I've definitely had some, even in that process, some failures, if you even want to call them that, but some hiccups and some trips and some this and that, which just means we learn and grow. And then I make fun of the trips as well. So I guess I just think anybody, if there's something that you've always been itching to do, go do it would be my message. Don't let age or circumstances, or maybe you need to work on something that will allow you, like in my case, to have the time to explore, but I encourage it.
When I talk to people who are going out and trying new things, I mean, I have people I've had on the show who've written books in their 80s, who have started painting. And I commend them for all of those things, because there's so many things you can do no matter your age. And it's funny to me, and I've shared this before, that when I started my business, I was, I think, 53, 54, whatever. Never in my mind was it even a thought that, oh, girl, you're too old to start a business, because I just don't see myself that way at all. I don't see being in your 50s or even 60s as being old. And I had people in their 40s tell me they did not want to make a career change because they felt too old. And to me, that's just crazy talk, y'all. You can do anything. But Karyl, being a comedian, it has been so interesting to all of us, all of her friends. We love hearing her stories because we're learning right along with her, what goes into it. And I think it was so interesting. Your first class was storytelling. And I didn't realize that was, I guess I never thought about it. But tell us a little bit about that, because I just found it very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So the reason I took storytelling first, and honestly, I didn't even know this either, but I took storytelling because you were mentioning earlier that I say funny things, and my humor has always been a reactive humor. I see something happening, or somebody says something, and then something funny will hit my brain, and out it comes, which is wit, right? Just in summation. But I've never written jokes or written a set, they call it, or a bit, or a gig, which is, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and really good, well-known comedians obviously do hours at a time. So I originally took storytelling to learn how to start to write something funny into a longer, predisposed, putting something together on paper into a storytelling process. What I didn't realize by taking it at the Dallas Comedy Club, I thought all the stories of those who participated were going to be funny. Mine actually was. But really, a story doesn't have to be funny. And a lot of the class was taking it just to grow in their careers, to feel more comfortable with presenting on stage. Many of the stories were actually very dark, and the process was cathartic for them. Because in storytelling, you have to have a change. Either hero becomes a bad guy, the bad guy becomes a hero. You have personal growth. You started at X, you end up on the spectrum at Y towards the end of your story. So there's this evolvement that goes in it, which in and of itself is what allowed me to then start the craft of creating my wit into short form jokes, if you will. And so with that, I then progressed to the intro to stand-up, which was a 5-minute set, and we had to do open mics. And I shared this story because at my very first open mic, speaking of being limitless by age, about, if I had to guess, a gentleman in his late 70s, early 80s was up there pitching 5 minutes at open mic, and he was hilarious. Whether he is going to be on Netflix or I don't know, maybe he could be. I thought he was amazing. But most importantly, you could see the joy and how much fun he was having. And this younger audience completely embraced him. And it was so inspiring for me to see him at this age go up there on a Wednesday night at 10 o'clock at night was so impressive, as he was having fun. He was happy.
I love that an older man got up there and he was having fun. That's the most important part. He was doing something that he loved.
Yes, and I do think as, humans, creatures, we feed off of that, right? When we see somebody taking a chance and going up there and enjoying it, whether he was perfect or what have you, didn't matter. It gave other people in the audience permission to go do what they love. Yeah. Which was the best part about it.
What does your family think about you doing this?
I think it's a different form of secondhand embarrassment, which I always apologize to them up front. But I think everybody's story is a product of their experience, and the things that are funny for me, of course, are part of my daily living. I do love self-deprecation. I do have the benefit of being married to a different situation, which is half Japanese, half Black. Each kid looks very different, as if they may not even be a part of the same family. And so whatever it is that you have in your own story that lends you to try something of your own, that just happens to be my story. So, but I think they ultimately, like, I'm proud of that 80-year-old and I don't even know him. I think ultimately they're my biggest fans. And even if I tripped up or did cause them secondhand embarrassment, they're willing because I'm doing what makes me happy. And I also think it teaches my children that they too can try something that makes them happy.
Be fearless and try it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I can tell you, we went to see your show. I think it was the second one that you did, right? At the Dallas Comedy Club, and brought my daughter who's 21. And we were sitting right there with your kids, and they were so proud of you. I could see on their faces. They were laughing. They were so proud. And my daughter was just dying laughing. She was like, Karyl is hilarious, because Karyl does this whole bit, because I think in comedy, you probably do talk about what you're living and what your life's like. So it's not like you're going to talk like you're 20 years old and, with your hot bod at the beach,
Yeah, I wish.
Can say
I would if I could.
Yeah, that ship sailed for me. But
Yes.
But you talk about, and it's hilarious because it's stuff that all women our age can relate to. And I don't know if you want to tell your signature, which my daughter says this every day now whenever she talks about you. It's
Yes. I do reflect on things that I go through in life to draw my comedy, just trying to get through them myself and to accept change, right? Because we change and have to embrace our own life as it changes, which can be difficult sometimes. But, menopause has not been easy for me. By the way, my sister got no symptoms, so I think they all came to me in double.
They came to me too. It was miserable.
And she has none, so there's that. But with that being stated, one of those is that I often don't recognize my body, and it doesn't feel like my body is my friend anymore. And so, like women, and most women, especially as we age, I dread swimsuit bra shopping. So I make this joke about how I went bra shopping, and I have a act out, is what they call it in the world of comedy, of basically rolling up my breasts so they fit in my bra, and I call them 34 longs. I've graduated from a B, C, or a D, skipped all the other letters in between, and I'm now at 34 long.
It got a lot of laughs from, I think, all age groups, because my daughter, like I said, she's 21, and she thought it was hysterical.
And then it was so fun because you kind of try to keep those things to yourself, and you put that and hide it right behind your bra, behind your top, and it's not something we outwardly speak about, but it's supposed to be Victoria's Secret, but it's no longer a secret.
Karyl just told the secret.
Yes. Karyl's secret.
Karyl's secret. That is so funny. How were you accepted, like, when you started taking the classes? I remember you being, I feel like you were maybe like a little nervous about like the age of the other people and being accepted. How was that, like, joining the class?
I was inherently nervous, a little trepidatious, intimidated, wondering if I would be, the oldest woman in the class, not fit in. Would it be a bunch of younger folks that were more in tune with current society, right, and what's funny? But at the same time, giving credit to comedians that I've seen out there that are older that have come into the world. And I always think that's a great thing, too. Like, for me, I have no problem saying my inspiration is Leanne Morgan, who I love.
Love her.
And she's not 20, and she talks all about familial things. So I already knew in my mind that I may not be the majority, but that it could be done. And I also, though, at 59 said if they're younger, I remember being younger and would probably go, oh, there's that older woman. But now that I am that older woman, I also have the wisdom to not care what they think.
Exactly.
Which I'm grateful for. That is one of the beauties of getting older, I think, as we become more comfortable in our own skin, and all those things come to play. But I'll tell you, the greatest gift I've received out of this experience is the dynamics and the diversity of the beauty of the people that I've been able to meet that actually jumped in, and we help each other. So we have a young gentleman from India, and his perspective might be very different about life just by where he's from and his own comic lens is what they call it. And then we had a gal that's married to a dentist. She's never had to work, so her perspective in life is from that, but she has to work for him sometimes. But she doesn't have to be there at 8, but we do, so her perspective is different. And then we had a young starving actress, a Hispanic gentleman that had grown up in downtown Dallas, where there are drive-by shootings, and his perspective was different. And so each of them was coming from their own frame of reference that the rest of us may not even be able to totally identify with, but they were able to convert it like I was to being relatable, which is the beauty of the class and the expression. And it afforded me to engage with people that I probably in my daily walk of life would not have met working in the job that I have. So hopefully I was a gift to them and they were a gift to me.
But so I love that. It wasn't like they held back like, oh, I don't want to talk to her. They just like, okay, we're all in this for the same goal and all kind of helped each other.
They all helped each other. We were all supportive of each other, and we all accepted each other for where they were at and what they were trying to achieve with the class.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And I mean, I just love that you've done this because I do think it's courageous because like you said, to walk in and the thought that I would have would be if I thought about a comedy club, it would be younger people. But interestingly enough, like you said, there are people who, the gentleman who was much older. So I love that.
Trying anything different in life takes courage, right? And sometimes it's forced on you. And so in those situations, like if you're going to go from 8th grade to freshman and you go into the cafeteria for the first time and you don't know where to sit and you don't want to make a senior mad at you, right? Like that's intimidating and it takes courage to get to the cafeteria, but it's forced. And so all I'm saying is as you age, it's a different courage to do it on your own.
Yeah, because you didn't have to go do this.
Because you didn't have to. Yeah. And all I'm doing is I hope with this podcast is encouraging someone out there that if they have an interest in something to just approach it with, I don't know what'll happen with it. I don't really care as long as I have fun. And if you're doing it and you're not having fun, you tried, don't do it.
Exactly.
But at least you tried.
Yeah.
And who knows what might be your result. Maybe it'll be the same of mine. Well, you'll be so glad you did.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's an inspiration. I will also share with y'all that Karyl has always in our group in senior living, we go to these networking meetings. And Karyl has always been over the top and so awesome because she will write something the night before. Is it usually the night before you write it?
Or morning of.
Yeah. So it'll be like her introduction, like, any kind of marketing thing, you've got your 30-second commercial, if you will. And she will have something rhyming, something that goes with the season or what's going on in the world. And no one wants to go after Karyl. Like no one. But I love going after Karyl now because she works with me. So she talks about me. So I just go, yeah, I'm with her. Ditto. It's great. But I know we've talked about it before that maybe this is something that would lead to, because you have so many great stories of working in senior living. And working in senior living, there are some just hysterical things that happen, just funny stories. We all have them, and it's not in a way of being disrespectful to share them. They're great stories of things that only can happen in senior living. And so I think, do you still sort of see yourself as maybe being like entertainment for like conventions and things like that about senior living?
That is an ultimate goal. As I hone in on my craft, I want to make sure to bring value to either, a sales convention of a larger senior living or of something related in that manner, and or possibly even short talks within the senior living communities. I see several avenues that it could be fun for me, beneficial for the audience as well. It may even be training because I've only ever done sales associated with the healthcare industry. So it could be some training / some comedic input in between, because that always makes it more fun to learn, right? So I have, I guess, several different thoughts about what that could look like. But what I'm doing up front is trying to hone that craft so that when I do make that leap, that it is a value that I'm bringing to that organization and to myself. But the senior living stories, well, first of all, yes, they're really funny. And it's always easier to get through life, right, with fun and comedy and laughter. We know how healthy that is for us, the endorphins that are released. I mean, that's a known fact in healthcare in and of itself. But it's very stressful sometimes for the actual senior having this dramatic change in their life. And then it's often stressful for their family trying to support them through it, the adult children or siblings, what have you. And so there could be even some comic relief for them, as well as possible education for them, and then a comic relief story in between to know you're not alone.
Exactly. I think that's great, because it is when you're talking to someone and it's all they're worried and it's all the negative and it's what if this, what if that, you know,
heavy.
It is. It's very heavy. And if you can break it up with a little humor, like, I mean, my grandmother had dementia and it was very heavy, but then she would say things that were like, wait, what? Like, I'm leaving for a date. I'm going dancing. And we're like, what is happening? You know, I mean, you have to find the humor in it, because, you know, things like that would happen, and it's easier just to laugh at it and, you know, just like, okay, that's so funny. She would find that amusing too.
I know. And some people, it helps them. And some people, you kind of have to know your audience. And you have to know what you're attending to be open to the humor. Because, like, for example, in hospice, and when my mother was on hospice, that's a very delicate subject, right? But she, too, was of the humorous kind. And we couldn't control that the cancer had already metastasized. It was very heavy. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. So there were some funny moments that I draw upon, but the audience would have to know going into it that it's meant to be laughter and comic relief. It's not meant to be insulting to a subject that is very sacred and a difficult process for all of us. So I know at one point she lost so much weight that we were like on our last outing that she could survive, and literally walking up to the house, her pants went straight down to the ground. And she goes, well, looks like I had to get cancer to finally lose all this weight. That was her way of handling it. And we were, once she did that, it gave us permission to bust out in laughter.
And laugh, which
and
is
laughter
such
around
a relief.
her. Such a relief where it could have been a total sad moment that it was the epitome of where she was at in this. She just chose a different...
She found the humor.
She felt the humor, and she chose a different direction. Whether she did it for herself or us, I don't know. If I had to guess, knowing the mother she was, she did it for all of us.
You remind me of a story of a family that we assisted, and this was when you still worked in a memory care. And I had referred this family, very wonderful, sweet, sweet family, and the mother had dementia. And do you want to take it from there?
Yes. So at the time I was working at a local senior living, and she lived in our memory care, and I remember her like yesterday. And for HIPAA guidelines and protection of her and her family, we won't use the name, but this beautiful woman lived in our memory care. And the history from the family was that she was always extremely faithful. She was a servant of God. Not a foul word ever came out of her mouth, not even a negative word. She was just followed and exuded love and servant of God. But she had Lewy body's dementia. And if you don't know that, one, it hits very young. Two, it often can have the most behaviors of many of the dementias. And three, in all dementias, a demented person can lose their filter. And if we hear bad words in life, we all know them, but you have a center of your brain that when all is well, it tells you the choice to use that word or not. Her brain all these years would never, ever say, never, ever, a foul word ever. So I was touring this family back in memory care to consider our community for their loved one. And this patient resident was on my left. And you knew what her day was going to be like because it was written all over her face. And it was not good on this day. And so I said, "How you doing, so-and-so?" And she replied, to our chagrin, "Oh, these bitches." And my tour, of course, was stunned.
Of course.
Of course. We all would be, right? Unless you work in it and know this is how it goes. And so immediately I put on my training pants, which was, how do you work with this? How do you work with this? Which is to honor what they say and who they are in the moment, and to ride their train, knowing she would normally not
Never say
this.
something.
So I immediately reply, "When I'm done with the tour, we'll get a list of the bitches." And all she wanted me to do was agree and acknowledge. And then she forgot and she was settled because someone agreed with her. And we all knew they weren't bitches. She was just having a moment. But the funniest part of the whole story, which I just love, because I told her family about it in a way to help them. Yeah. I really wanted to help them understand where she was at. And this family was marvelous. They completely embraced the situation. Mortified at first, I'm not going to lie. But they had this memorial where they honored that and talked about the story. And had, I think it was a T-shirt.
I think it was a T-shirt, yes, at her memorial.
At her memorial that said something like bitches, 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 or something to that tune. And that was them
finding the humor
in the sadness, which is fair.
Yeah.
It allowed them to cope with her change and to honor that she was this marvelous human, and she was.
She was.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that story because you could either just go down the road of negativity and sadness, and I can't believe, and be bitter about such a thing. You know, she couldn't control saying that, obviously. But, you know, I love that they found the humor, and even at her memorial, they honored it. I love that. So, I mean, humor, laughing is so healing. It truly is. So what's next for you? What's your next class that you're taking?
February 6th, I start with an improv class. And
you're going to do it, the
improv.
Yes,
I'm taking long-form improv, of which I've learned the difference between short-form improv and long-form. Short-form is like something's just thrown at you in the immediate time and you have to respond. With improv, you kind of come up with a setting or pre-idea of what it's going to be, and then you do improvisation around it. So I'm doing long-form. As this might not be known by the audience, but I am legally deaf. And so I am picking an improv where I hope to hear what they say so that whatever I do respond with isn't funny because it doesn't match.
It could be really funny,
It could be really funny. And I'm hoping that it hones and brings along my skills of what they call act outs in the world of stand-up comedy, where you do demonstrative things to enhance or heighten your joke. And that's where the improvisation can come in. So February 6th.
Well, I am excited because I'm going to come to your show whenever your show is.
I'll have to look up the date, but it's about 8 weeks out. Each class is about 8 weeks.
Well, we will all come again for your show because we had a blast. And, you know, we didn't mention that before. So not only, 59, you decided you're going to go become a comedian, take these classes, but you are also legally deaf. And I forget about that, but you are legally deaf. So you have two things that could be seen as challenges, and where I think a lot of people would be like, that ship has sailed. I'm not going to do that. I can't do it. But you didn't say that. You said, I can.
Yeah.
And you are.
I can, and I am, and I do buy a lot of vowels. Speaking of being a comedian, a lot of vowels throughout the day. Yes.
So, yeah.
Don't let anything limit you.
No, nothing. And especially not age. And please, if someone is 40 and telling me they can't do something because they're too old, you need to go check yourself now.
Yeah.
So any other advice that you would give someone who is older and thinking of something they would like to do? Could even run a marathon. I've seen people working out, learning to work out in their 70s.
I just say, listen to your own voice. Like, you finally have permission. You're probably through the stages of raising a family as a whole. You might be helping with your grandchildren or what have you, but this is your time. This is your chance, and it's never too late.
Never too late. And don't let your adult children tell you can't do something, because you were telling me that earlier.
Yes. And of course, if you are that person that has limitations where something is unsafe, that's not what we're saying. Yeah. Don't jump out of the plane without the parachute. Yeah. However, if there is something that you have, it's safe, etc., just don't limit yourself and have fun.
Love it. Well, with that, we will wrap it up. Thank you so much, Karyl, for being on the show. And I just love that. Just try it and go have fun. Just don't limit yourself. Thanks, as always, for listening to the podcast. And you can listen to all of our episodes on my website, which is LoriWilliams-seniorservices.com. Go to the website. There's over 200 episodes. So listen to them all. Every single one of them, and share them with your friends and family. And we will be back next week for another show. Thanks. Bye-bye.